Wrestling Live here exclusively to talk about and break down the David Taylor to Oklahoma State head wrestling coach hire. We're here to break it down from all angles. Wow. So many different ways to think about this. I'll give you my initial thoughts. Is it the beginning of the end for Penn State? No, not yet. Not yet. But I think it's very detrimental for a lot of other teams. But we'll get into it, folks. Kevin, well, before I throw it to you for your initial thoughts, everyone, listen, you can join us live here. You can call in live. The link is in the description. So you call in, and basically I'll put you into a green room, and then whenever you're ready and we're ready to have you on, we'll have you in. If you have questions, comments, obviously there's a lot of things to talk about, a lot of ways to look at this. David Taylor to Oklahoma State. It happened late last night and we found out he initially said no on Monday. But Kevin, what are your initial thoughts here?
I was shocked. I mean, like you said, on Sunday he definitely said no, and I think that what happened was they made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Is that what happened?
They loaded up the money where they made him an offer that just he couldn't refuse because he said no. And I mean, that's the only thing I can think of that changed so drastically from Sunday to last night. You know,
it's the money,
right? And I mean, it must be a lot. It must be a lot. But I'm shocked because I really was wrong about it. I really thought that it was Coleman Scott the whole time, and it's a huge move, and it's got so many implications that we're going to be digesting this for quite some time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because so Ben David Taylor, which was shocking, and then after that, Piles kind of said no, it's going to be Coleman Scott, and then we were all kind of led to believe maybe they offered David Taylor, he said no, they're coming back to Coleman Scott. Then something changed. We don't know. I guess we will inevitably find out how much he's getting paid because that's public, whereas Penn State is private. But, I mean, really? Is it just simply for the money? I mean, because, wow. There's so many other things that he has. His family life, his Olympic career, which now, I mean, who knows? There's still a chance he could be representing America, right? With
I mean, it's crazy. I don't know if he planned on going past this year, wrestling wise, like anyway, because I mean, usually guys are all about the Olympics. So the question really is, was he ready to go another 4 years? That brings him to age 37. I don't know. That's maybe, but I just don't think so.
Unlikely.
But so I think though, according to a couple guys that he was talking to, the question was still in his head was, am I done competing? Which you can understand that any competitor, it's hard to hang it up, man, especially, his last match. Let's face it, David Taylor is one of the most prolific scorers we've ever seen. And his last two matches, he scored a push out each match, so it was probably a difficult thing for him to go down like that. But you got to imagine with this job that he's done with that, I mean, he's got to put all his focus into this job.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that, and that would make sense. And when you say 37, that does not sound like a good wrestling age number. But, I mean, so he's going to Oklahoma State. Let's move to, who's he going to bring with him? So I guess Piles was saying Jimmy Kennedy and Gilman would be the likely names in the hat. What are your thoughts on that? Is that who you see going?
I'm interested on knowing the why with Gilman. I mean, Jimmy Kennedy, obviously, being his brother-in-law and everything, and he was at Northwestern up until 2021, and then he came over to Penn State. So it's not like, he's been in this program the whole time with Cal, and that's family. So I can imagine him going. My thoughts kind of are you got to imagine that Cal like gave his blessing for this. Not that Cal dictates what David Taylor does, but I mean, for however long since David Taylor was young in high school, Cal's been his guy, when he was David Taylor originally committed to Iowa State, and then Cal switched over to Penn State, and David Taylor said that he didn't even go and visit Penn State. He was going there because Cal was going there, and it seems that relationship is continued, obviously. So you got to think that they had long talks about this, and with that, again, I'm speculating, but with that, you would think that they had to have talked about, okay, here's who you can take, here's who you can't, or who have you thought about taking? I don't
That's a
know.
fair question. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean that is an interesting point because yeah, Kale's been David's mentor, and obviously that relationship is great there. And I'll tell you this from what I know about Kale, I'll speculate and just say that Kale absolutely gave his blessing for this,
mhm,
and probably encouraged David to do this.
yeah,
In all honesty, because Kale ain't afraid of nothing, dude, and Kale has a good heart and truly wants the best. I mean, everything we see, he wants the best for each and every one of his wrestlers. And there's no way I'm almost certain that Kale likely said, if you feel like this is the best thing for, maybe that's what changed between Sunday. Maybe it wasn't the money. Maybe it was a
yeah,
conversation with Kale. In all honesty, maybe they
yeah,
talked about the fact that your next Olympic run you're going to be 37, and that's not likely. Brooks is going to be even better, um,
yeah,
and even more
maybe.
in his prime. But
Yeah, it's funny too because originally I was thinking to myself, maybe Kip. Or it's funny. I agree with what you're saying totally. But it took me a while to get to that because originally I was thinking to myself, maybe Kale's the one that told him not to take the job because Kale, if you remember, he hung it up real early in his career. I mean, Kale, we could have seen a lot of good things from Kale, and then he came back years later when he lost that bet in like 2010, and he actually made the team and ended up getting like fifth or something. And that was just not wrestling for like 7 years or something like that. So then I was thinking maybe he was telling David like make sure you're done because you don't get these years over again. But then I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I really trust in what you're saying. I think that he probably was like, listen, this is an opportunity you're not going to get for a long time. I'm going to stay at Penn State. Cal's 44. He can stay there for 20 more years if he wants. I'm not saying he will, but he doesn't want to see David sit there and wait for his dream job. But if you remember, they did say that um, Cal was interested. He did come out in like 2016 when he wasn't happy with the athletic director at Penn State, and he said that he would. Like, Oklahoma State is a job that he would be interested in if he was looking. So you got to think he did talk highly to David about.
let's be honest, it's one of the few big jobs in college wrestling. If you had to rank the college wrestling jobs, it would be like Penn State, Iowa, Oklahoma State, Ohio
Yeah,
State, Michigan,
absolutely.
Cornell. Like, would
The
that be the
money.
top?
Yeah, I agree, man. The donors and the alumni, the amount of money that they must get. I mean, I think it was David Bray or someone said that with Oklahoma State, he said you can go there on a Sunday afternoon and you will find at a home match and you'll find 8,000 fans that are all there, all educated on the sport, interested and going crazy. He goes, it's one of the few places that you can do that too. And it's a great, great job. And who knows, it's not saying that he can't eventually end up at Penn State. I mean, look at Rob Cole. How many years he coached Cornell? Then he went over to Stanford just because he was ticked off about the COVID stuff. And then finally his alma mater, UNC, opens up and he's there. It took him how long, And so David Taylor, if his true goal is to coach Penn State, that can definitely happen.
Yeah, and
And
maybe this would be a better path to that. It would be the same path that Kale took. Wait, right?
right,
The
yeah,
exact same
he,
path.
he might,
Whoa!
yeah,
So
yeah,
now,
he might just be there longer, but still, he could end up where he wants to end up, And And
maybe his ultimate goal is to just follow in Kale's footsteps, and then
yeah,
he's gonna run Oklahoma State, compete with Kale until Kale retires, and then David Taylor comes back and takes over Penn State. Wouldn't that be a dream story for all the Nittany Lion fans, right?
absolutely. And how do you like? I know that there's some Nittany Lion fans that are upset about this, but I'm trying to think from all aspects. I think this is just great for wrestling, and I'm not saying that Coleman Scott wouldn't have been an excellent choice. I think he would have. I do feel for the guy. I don't know all the details, but because he no nothing, he hasn't really said much because he's a classy guy, and I know the guys loved him there, but I think that this just makes, in the long term, this makes wrestling better. It makes it more competitive. I think Taylor's going to get some of those recruits Cal would have gotten. How do you?
Well, listen, I wanna read some comments here as we go through, because Robert Silas made a good one, and it's so Penn State is stacked, and Levi has been coached by David Taylor for years. Now the portal is closed, right? But I wonder if Levi ends up jumping. So it brings up the question: who's David going to bring with him? Now, we kind of discussed the coaching angle of who he could potentially bring earlier, but what about some of these wrestlers? And what about some of the ones who are still in the open market? Does obviously this, I would think, increases the percentages of them landing a Wyatt Hendrickson and Andrew Alirez, but maybe even the potential of like Levi. I mean, would that be crazy?
It would be nuts. It's going to be hard to get Levi over there. But with that being said, what I was thinking is, I'm a New York guy, upstate New York guy, and um, Zack Ryder and PJ Duke, right? I'm not saying that they're going to do it, but I don't think it's impossible because Zack Ryder, the reason that he forewent his senior year of high school was to wrestle at M2, and that he got along so well with David Taylor, and David Taylor really took him under his wing. And he just recently won the U20s. He looked really good, and he's just a David Taylor kind of guy, and he thought that David Taylor would still be there. So he isn't he's not in the situation where he's actually a freshman at Penn State yet. He's still a senior in high school right now, although he's been wrestling. He's living in Penn State, but anyway. So I think that, like, if anything, maybe that's the guy that goes over. And PJ Duke, man, he has been, Zack Ryder was at Mini State Valley. PJ Duke moves over there after he wins states first time. Then he commits to Penn State. PJ Duke commits to Penn State. I think we'll see PJ Duke forego his senior year of high school, just like Ryder did. But that, I was thinking maybe along the lines of that, as far as recruits. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, wow, you brought up a whole angle that I didn't even think about it. I was thinking only current Penn State wrestlers transferring in the future and the free agents now. But yeah, what about these recruits who have yet to commit, who are right there on the brink, like a PJ Duke? It's going to happen. I mean, and that kind of takes me to a point that I wanted to make, and I brought up initially. Is this the beginning of the end for Penn State? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we all talked about, everyone knew it would take a monumental move, and nothing's going to happen overnight.
Right.
I think this, down the road, 3 or 4, I think you mentioned maybe 6 or 8 years until it really affects Penn State. I think in 3 or 4, because that's when you're talking about the recruits that you mentioned earlier that have yet to commit yet, who are still in high school, that's when those will start hitting their peak. But I think this is so much more devastating to other programs immediately, and I'm talking about Iowa, Iowa State, Ohio State, Cornell, because Penn State's going to keep getting those top-tier recruits. Now, they might miss out on 1 or 2 here or there.
Right.
But, dude, now there's a clear number 2 program.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of been like Iowa's been it, but you're not really sure the past couple years. But now it's like, boom, David Taylor is here, dude. And now it feels like there's a clear number 2. Kale and what that dynasty he has is too formidable to be taken down. It's like This like how Rome was taken down, guerrilla warfare,
Yeah.
dude. You got small attacks everywhere here and there. David Taylor's here. This is a monumental move, dude. But I think, wow, all of a sudden, is Tom Brand's back in trouble now? Because no one thought it was possible to land someone like David Taylor. Did I mean seriously? Did you think it
Um,
was actually possible, dude?
think about it, man. Like 2 weeks ago, before we went to the Olympic trials, I mean, this was the farthest thing from our minds. We're thinking, he's going to go to the Olympics. He's going to, wrestle Yazdani in the final. He's going to beat him again. And then he's probably going to ride off in the
Yeah,
sunset. Even then, all the coaching jobs will be situated by then. And I don't know, but you're right. These guys. Another kind of angle I was looking at was you got guys like Terrell Bearclaw, right? And say, kind of how Facundo was this year, although Facundo seems like he's going to fit right in there at 174 probably. But, you got Messenbrink, Levi Haynes, PJ Duke coming in 2 years, and then you got Sealy, and all these guys bunched up there. I wonder how many guys you'll see that realize, like top guys that you see just can't really cut the lineup, that just shoot right over to Oklahoma State. Not that saying that they would get like their farm team or their seconds, but man, Penn State's seconds are still a
that's what I
pretty
mean.
damn good get.
There's a clear number two now. Like there's a clear
Yeah,
like okay, maybe I couldn't get into Penn State or maybe I just didn't want to. Like, and it's almost gonna be like I could see almost like I don't know what you would call it, but that's what you do if you don't go to Penn State. Like we're
yeah,
going to Oklahoma State, dude, because we're gonna
yeah,
start beating Penn State. Penn State's been on top for 10+ years, dude. Everybody's probably sick of Penn State. So you know what I mean? I don't know. You can see, especially with this young generation, young
yeah.
generation, they want to be different.
Yeah, if you want to wrestle, the closest you can get to wrestling for Cal without wrestling for Cal seems to be David Taylor. I mean, he's implemented his whole career has been based around Cal. His style, his offensive explosion, his ankle picks, his diversity on his feet, his dominating people, his mindset. It's just Cal. It's all he's his own person. Don't get me wrong, but man, you would think that he would be incorporating a lot of the same kind of things that Cal incorporates, both from a technical and a program standpoint.
Oh, it's going to be the exact same culture there in
Hmm.
Oklahoma State. He's going to bring the exact same culture, the same mentality, everything. I mean, I can bet you that. But let me read a couple comments here. Braden says
Yeah,
Levi might be an assistant after his career. I mean, you do see Levi putting out some training videos now. I could definitely see that. But then Robert says, okay, what is the future of the M2? Um, like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Who's going to run that? Brooks,
yeah.
Nolf,
It's a
Snyder,
good question.
Dake? What? Where is that going to go? But
Yeah, and
it's
when
just
if Kennedy does go over, who's going to take his job? Is that going to be enough? And just for the record, I know I hear a lot of people saying, "Well, Dake's gonna." I don't see Dake as a coach, man, and and I'm I'm a Cornell guy, and I still love Dake. I have no like. I was happy that Dake moved because I want to see Dake win the Olympics, and I think the only way he could go was to going over there and training with those guys. He wasn't getting the partners he did there, so I'm not saying this because I have any ill feeling towards Dake, but I'm saying like I don't know if he's got that personality for coaching. He's kind of does things on his own. He's kind of I don't know. He just
yeah.
doesn't seem like, and he hasn't shown any interest in coaching. He hasn't vocally said anything about it.
Well, you bring up another point. How much coaching experience does David Taylor have? I mean, we really don't have much of a resume to we're just kind of assuming he's going to be a great coach, but it's entirely different. Yeah, so it doesn't just a great wrestler doesn't mean you just translate to being a great coach. It's like
Right?
corporate America always makes a mistake of hiring the best salesperson to be the sales manager. Well, that's a whole
Yeah,
different job, dude. It's a
yeah,
whole
yeah.
different
Man,
responsibilities.
you got to be good with people, man. And I'm not saying Dake's not good with people, but he's different than, even though him and David are great friends, they're very different people. They seem to be very
Yeah,
different, and
different
how they deal with
personality
people.
strengths. Yeah, I mean, it's not
Yeah.
a good or bad thing. It's just people are different. But
Yeah, they're just different, man. And I don't know. I think that they could go over there and wrestle with um, you know, their wrestling club or whatnot. I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. But as far as coaching, I don't know. He has not expressed any interest in coaching. Just like Jordan, but neither of those guys have expressed any interest in coaching. But we'll see. I just think that this is
yeah.
just good for wrestling, man, and I
Uh,
think that it's
Robert agrees. He says,
exciting.
"Don't believe this will be the downfall of Penn State. He thinks it's great for the sport and it'll give us
Mhm.
hardcore fans something to talk about for years." I couldn't agree more, dude. Thank you. This is what I've been waiting. We've literally had about 2 coaches who make news. Well, Kale doesn't even make news. We just try to make news about Kale. There's Tom. Like, thank you, Tom Brands, dude, has been holding it down for how many years now? Finally, dude, we get a third wheel in the house, a clear
Yeah.
third, a
Mhm.
clear top 3 programs now, right? I mean,
Yeah.
although
Yeah.
Cornell's been there for years, if you look at the stats from that former short I
Cornell.
made.
Yeah. Cornell's got a ceiling, though. I mean, Cornell. I don't know if they'll ever have that. They almost won that. If I'll tell you what, the one year that they got second, back in like 2011, if Penn State hadn't gotten that guy transfer over the 125 pounder, they would have won that year. But I think that's the closest they'll ever get. I think they'll win dream trophies, but I just, it's tough to do with the Ivy, stuff they got holding them back. That's real tough.
Yeah.
Scholarships and admission and all that. But I think that I started thinking, why did they do this? Why did they not go with Coleman Scott? And I think that while we've been talking, we've kind of answered that question. If you wanted to be a solid program and steadily kind of maybe get back into and know for sure that that's going to happen, you're going to steadily improve, you keep Coleman Scott. But if you want to roll the dice and possibly win, your 35th or 36th team title and get these stud recruits and make fans. I know fans might not be excited there right now, but they're going to get excited. I know
Oh,
they're
yeah.
loyal to the Coleman, but if you want to do that, I think your ceiling is so much higher with Taylor.
And
We'll
touche
see.
to Oklahoma State, dude, for having the balls to even go after him. Because no one thought this was even possible. And
Yeah.
you know what, dude? I am a fan of big swings, dude. Everyone
Yeah.
just assumed this was going to be Coleman Scott. Oklahoma State has the balls to go out and go for someone like David Taylor. And hot dog, dude, do they not go ahead and get him by taking a big swing? I think I'm all about take big swings, man, and you're going to be rewarded in life for taking risks. My hat's off to Oklahoma State for taking a swing, and they get rewarded. Now, another comment here, Hawks on the rocks. Wow, sounds like an Iowa fan. Says Askren or make to Iowa. Askren to Iowa now. I mean, we kind of talk about that on tonight's episode that we recorded on Sunday, but Ben Askren, I mean, does this make it more likely for Iowa to now go back and think again about Tom Brands or some of these other programs who have, like you said, just kind of been. This now is certainly going to affect how other programs are looking at their coaching staff, right?
Absolutely. If I was another program, maybe I think Brands is there to stay unless him and the AD continue to battle. But a lot of these other programs, I mean, you got to figure like a Missouri, they're keeping Brian Smith for as long as he wants to stay, but and I'm sure Dresser's at Iowa State, but some of these programs that maybe they haven't been able to hurdle over into the team trophy, they're kind of, and they haven't had like a long tenured coach. Man, you go and get Ben Askren, because Ben Askren is going to bring you top dog recruits, man. I mean,
I am shocked Ben Askren doesn't have a job ahead. I mean, dude, before, I mean, I would argue David or Ben Askren it would be more impactful than David Taylor. Now, David Taylor's a bigger name, but we're talking a long resume of proven coaching success and current wrestlers who follow him and currently train with him that would all follow him.
Yeah.
Like, to me,
Yeah.
I don't. That is an. If anyone could pull Ben Askren, dude, you pull Ben Askren. Like,
Yeah, you do it. You definitely do that. And now's the time to do it. He just left Flow. You swing. And you know what? Like you said, hats off to Oklahoma State for taking a swing. And look what happened to Penn State when they took a swing. Can you imagine if Penn
exactly.
State never did that? If Penn State played it safe,
Yeah.
it would be a where the heck would wrestling be right now? It'd be in a completely different who knows, you know? But Penn
You know,
State would certainly not be, reaping the benefits that they are now.
I mean, as brutal and rough and difficult as wrestling is, we traditionally very light on the coaches, right? Coaches kind of have it easy. Not a lot of coaching turnover in wrestling.
Yeah.
At least not when
You're
you compare it to other sports. And
yeah,
I asked a
you're
buddy to do research because I was going to make a short about it. And he never did his research, but I believe that there's a parallel to the media coverage in sports versus coaching turnover. So the more media coverage, the more coaching turnover, because there's just that natural pressure
absolutely, man.
on organizations to get to the top. And
Yeah. Look at the New York City teams, man. Like, you look at playing for the Yankees or even the Mets. Like you play in New York City, man. The media is there and all eyes are on you. And I agree with you. It's kind of like there's not a lot of great coaches out there. There's many good coaches, but not a lot of great program changing coaches out there, maybe, and it's kind of like NFL, like quarterbacks, there's not a lot of really great quarterbacks out there. You got like maybe 8 quarterbacks that you can just
you can count them
they
on
can
one
change
hand.
your team. Yeah.
You can
And
count the game changers on one hand, and yeah, and that goes.
yeah.
That's true for almost every like sport or position,
Mhm.
almost any job in the world. There's that 1% who are just different. I think Ben Askren's in that 1%. We're gonna find out if David
Yeah.
Taylor's in that 1%. But back to David Taylor's coaching staff. So he hasn't. I guess Coleman Scott, as of now, still officially is on the coaching staff. But DJ brings up a point, like asking, like he thinks he's going to clean house. That's the only way his success or failure will squarely be on his shoulders. So
Yeah.
I would also assume that David Taylor is going to clean house. I saw another comment on Twitter about what if Kale pulls the reverse Uno card and then hires Coleman Scott.
Yeah, right.
I don't know, dude, but I mean,
Man, it's like what would be better? It would be shocking if Coleman Scott stayed there. It would be shocking, but would that be better? Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe David Taylor could never really, do it the way he wants to do it because of Coleman's. It's like sometimes you got to just start fresh, man. Because if you got someone that has been there and they're set in their ways, and then you're the new guy coming in and you want to implement this system, it's extra hard to turn that over the way you want to because you're going to have this hesitation and pull from the other side not to. So yeah, you wonder where a guy like Coleman Scott's going to end up, and man, like I don't know. There's not a lot of. I don't know. He's got to figure he's going to get a head coaching job, but he's not going to go to like Columbia, I mean, especially right now.
yeah, you think, and I mean, what head coaching jobs are available? But I mean, as we talked about, I think this is going to have reverberations across the entire sport, dude. No one thought this was possible. All of a sudden, dude, a team takes a big swing, they get them, and there's going to be internal pressure at all these other universities to like step it up, dude. Like, I think probably the most pressure is probably on Tom Brand's, Baby Brand's comments here. Hawks with another weak recruiting class should brace for 4th in the Big Ten. ... Yeah, I mean, this certainly doesn't help. Go ahead.
I'll tell you what. In my opinion, the reason that this hire like freaked Iowa out more than anything I think, is because of these transfer portal guys. All of a sudden, they're thinking, how many of these guys want the new shiny, like, ooh, the David Taylor, the new Oklahoma State? Like, I want to be a part of that, and
Yeah,
because
that's what I
Iowa
mean.
really needed these. Iowa needed these transfers, man, because their recruiting class is not there. And
We
man,
talked
I don't
about
know.
that on last Friday's live.
Yeah,
Their upcoming recruiting class, and maybe we'll break that
yes,
down even more. And
yeah,
I'm
we should.
sure that this Friday's live we'll have some transfer updates to break down. But I mean, oh my
How
goodness, that's
how long do you think the Oklahoma State fans and the alumni and the donors that push for this, how long do you think they give David Taylor to become a top, a trophy team, say top three?
great question because okay, here's another great point: is he's not following some slouch, dude. He's following in John Smith's footsteps, dude.
Yeah,
Arguably the GOAT. So that is a great question. What is, say he's not immediately successful? How long's the string? What's, you know what I mean, on David Leash before, or on David before their say, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
cut, and it's then all of a sudden the pressure's back on David Taylor. The other question is, and let's be honest, it's really all about NIL money, right? And
yeah.
boosters.
Hmm.
How is David Taylor going to affect the NIL money in Oklahoma State? I mean,
Yeah, they from what I hear, they got a lot of support money wise. Um, I'm curious to see what he's getting, but I mean, it wouldn't be out of the realm. What if they offered him $1 million a year? Would that like be? It would be wow, but would it be like there's no way possible they offered him 1 million? It would
oh,
be
I
crazy,
what,
but
David Taylor?
could be.
$1 million?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, we should make our predictions for, because it'll eventually come out. My prediction is $1 million. I am not
yeah.
joking. I
That's what
think
I'm
they're paying.
thinking,
I
man.
think it's probably a $1 million flat salary. I mean,
Yeah,
he ain't taking. We're talking about David Taylor, dude. Like,
yeah.
and we're talking
Especially after
about
he said no.
Oklahoma State.
Yeah,
It's a
I
huge
think
university.
yeah, they want to be in the mix, and you know what? He's going to bring some of Kale's secret sauce with him, man. He's got, whatever they do over there, he's going to bring some of it there. And,
Mm.
I think this is really exciting. I was really shocked to hear the news last night, but I was really excited for wrestling.
I mean, I was up until, thank goodness, I was up until almost midnight editing the episode that comes out tonight. Because otherwise I would have been sleeping before this news came out. But
Yeah.
also very unfortunate for the episode tonight. They're pre-recorded. But
Yeah, right. What a bummer, man. That stuff always happens, right? Like the
it's
stuff drops right
unbelievable.
then.
And we're
Yeah.
only talking like 2 days. But a couple other comments here. Hawks on the Rocks. Sadly, I'm well aware they need to change Dake or Askren to Iowa. 3 powerhouses. Also, brands can't recruit. DJ says apparently can't develop either. Wow, a lot of concern here, which is surprising to me because I thought, wow, Penn State's going to be, Penn State fans, and maybe they are, very worried. But it seems to me, at least on the comments, that majority Iowa fans that are not happy about this.
Do you think, not to get like too far off topic, but do you think that like I'm trying to think what is going on with brands like our generation, man, brands like that's exciting. You go there with brands because we remember him wrestling and stuff. But do you think that like
Times have
a lot
changed,
of
man.
these guys aren't excited about brands because they didn't really see him wrestle and the whole like aura
Yep.
about him isn't what it used to be, and that's why because maybe he can't be like a really great people person. You know what I mean? Like he's probably pretty awkward when he comes to the house, I'm guessing. Um, I don't
I'll tell
know.
you.
Maybe,
I'll tell you who brands reminds me of, and I think it's just times have changed, and
yeah,
it worked back then. It doesn't work now. He reminds me a lot of like Bob Knight, not like the real bad stuff about Bob Knight, but
yeah,
as far
yeah,
as like his temper, and almost
yeah,
like Bill Belichick, dude. stuck in his ways. He's got his
Yeah.
ways, and it's hard, rigid. And even though the whole culture and times have changed and moved this way, dude, it's worked for him. He won an Olympic gold medal. He's
Yeah.
won national championships as a coach, so it's worked for him in the past. Why would he move off? Why would he change? That's the way he's seeing it. But the reality is, dude, the whole times have changed, and
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
this
I
younger generation, man, they're not about that. Well,
Yeah.
it's rare to get that kind of mentality, nose to the grindstone, grit. You know what I mean?
Think
It's
about it,
just
man.
different.
Yeah. You think of Iowa, you're thinking traditionally hand fighting, killer practices, just hammering you in practices. Then you got Penn State. You're thinking playing dodgeball. They don't
Hmm.
wrestle too much. They're
I
they're
mean,
the best, and
just think
they're
about it, dude. What do the kids like? What would the kids
yeah,
like? What's cool
yeah,
with the kids? What?
yeah,
Well, it ain't that hard work, dude. It's dodgeball. Oh,
yeah,
I can go there and sweat and work. And I'm not saying they don't do that at Penn State, but on
yeah,
the surface, the perception is, hey, we're all having fun. We're playing dodgeball. Oh, and we're winning. Like
yeah,
everything, every year.
yeah.
So,
And the only thing that we have to do that sounds crazy is just listen to the same song over and over. But I can get used to that. It's the fun is enough, and yeah, I don't know. I really hope that Iowa turns it around, the recruiting and stuff, because it's getting frightening, and I do like Brands a lot, and I really hope that works. But the more teams we got that are great, the better. So
yeah, no, I agree. I'm so excited just for the
yeah,
whole sport of wrestling, man. I mean, it brings some parity. It gives us stuff to talk about, dude, especially during the off season.
absolutely.
Trying to see, man, if I have any real final thoughts. I'm way behind on comments, folks. So, Kevin, let's get your final thoughts. I'm gonna try to scroll through these comments, see if
Yeah,
there's.
yeah. Scroll through, man, and everybody, listen. I don't know if hopefully you did see the episode last Friday, but uh, Brian came on and he said right on there, it's so easy. You just click on it and boom, talk to us. We're not you obviously we're not like we're not know-it-alls, or we're not someone that's going to put you down. We want to just hear your opinions, and it's fun.
No,
This
that's
is
what
what
the show's
it's
all
all
about,
about.
man. Getting
Yeah.
everyone else's input, and boy, a lot of mentions of Bono. Bono should be canned.
Yeah, man. I was looking at the recruiting rankings, and not only you think about it, he lost Hamidi this year, right? Last year, you could say he didn't lose, but Gomez could have wrestled there another year. He didn't. He went to Michigan. So his two best wrestlers each year kind of gone, and then he's not getting the recruits he should, and he's not getting any of the Wisconsin recruits because of Astrid and his feud. I don't know what they're holding on to him for. Especially when Askren's available. I mean, that seems like a no-brainer to me, but they gave him the extension, so who knows?
I have a feeling we're going to see Ben Askren hired somewhere
Yeah, I hope so.
this offseason. Can that be my bold prediction? But all right. Unfortunately, I can't keep up with all these comments. So, folks, yeah, I'm just mind blown. I'm absolutely mind blown. And I am so excited. But we do have our regularly scheduled Tuesday show coming out tonight at 7, where Wayne actually talks about what was going through David Taylor's brain over this past weekend. And because there is so many other, I mean, we could talk about it forever. What about his family, all his farm, dude, his businesses? What about K2 Roots? I mean, so he gives you a little bit of a different perspective there. And then we actually also tonight pit up the ideal Oklahoma State and Iowa, although it seems way more likely to be Oklahoma State at this point, if they were to get all these transfers like Alirez, Hendrickson, which all of a sudden seem way much more likely because there is a path to Penn State losing this year. I mean, I said it's not going to affect Penn State until 3 or 4 years down the road. It could. It very well could. And then in addition to that, folks, it's Friday nights live with us. Join us live with call-ins, and it's just the way to start your weekend. Relax and unwind, and we're just gonna chit-chat about wrestling. Kevin, what? Give us a couple topics that we're gonna talk about on this Friday live.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We're gonna dive into Gable Steveson. How much did he? What would he have made had he not gone the WWE route? And what did he make going the WWE route? And how does that compare? Did he did he make a lot where he was and it was good for him, or was it a big financial mistake for him? And also, uh, dive into the transfer portal and how it is compares to recent years. And is it dying down at all? Is this the last year of it being crazy because of the COVID year? And also dive into some recruiting, some interesting recruiting rankings, and see where teams are and where coaches are. How good are they doing at recruiting?
Yeah, all that, and obviously we'll talk about any further developments here with David Taylor to Oklahoma State, folks. Biggest news in college wrestling in a long, long time. I want to get your final bold prediction of who's going to take over M2, Kevin.
You know what?
Leaders in the clubhouse: Brooks, Nolf, Snyder, Dake.
I would say either. Well, man, I think don't call me crazy, but it's possible that Kennedy stays and runs that program if he doesn't want to uproot and go to Oklahoma State. If not him, I would say Nolf. And one last thing real quick, I'm sorry. Also Friday, we're going to get into the Last Chance Open. Very important. Last Chance Open.
Oh, that's right.
57 and 65 kilograms. I didn't mean to leave that out. That's like the number one thing we'll go over. Spencer Lee and Zane, who, a lot of it has been talked about. Who are they going to be wrestling? Who are the guys? Who are the hammers?
Statman Kevin. You broken down all the opponents, the potential opponents.
Yeah, every one
right?
of them, man. I went through, and let me tell you, it's going to be tough. It's not going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be real tough for these guys. So,
my goodness, man.
Yeah.
By opponent, dude. I mean, arguably the best stat man in the sport here, Kevin, with us. But one final comment here, Thomas. This affects PSU right now. However, I think they will remain on top, but it's going to be interesting. I see Oklahoma State as a solid number 2 as of now. Boy, I mean, we could just continue to talk about this, folks, but I don't know, man. This is crazy. So, Kevin, I want to thank you for coming on live, and I want to thank everyone for joining us at Final Thoughts, Kevin. That's it.
Call in Friday.
Call in Friday, folks. We want to hear. Yeah, we want to hear what you have to say. So, thank you for joining us. Like, comment, subscribe. This is BEG Wrestling, folks. Until tonight at 7. Tune in tonight at 7, and we'll see you then. Thanks, folks.
Take care.